So this is this week's collective read. So I'm going to talk a little bit about, obviously there's so much going on in the world right now. That is going to come up in my read. But especially I want to talk about, how we do as spiritualists, during, this time, what we can do and some of the messages that are coming from spirit. Last night, I know this sounds wild, for people who may not be in my group, they may not be aware. But last night, I have a Talking to Heaven cards deck. And so it can give a voice of a past loved one when you choose the deck. But I actually asked the spirit of George Floyd, I said, I'm going to draw a card. Please, let me know what you would like to say to my group. As my group is 26,000, it's very big. What would you like to say? And I really, asked him to come through. I drew this card. We are so connected. And as soon as I saw it, I knew he had made contact. I know it sounds wild, but I just knew this is what he wanted to say, that this made perfect sense, this card. We are so connected. And now, when I did my big read, and many of you saw my read for Would There Be Justice for George, he shows as the Knight of Cups, which is a very good person, very gentle. This is probably, of all the male suits in tarot, is the gentlest, being a cup, love, compassion, and affection, and, a deep emotion. So this is a very kind man. But I do note in today's read, it is in a reverse position, which makes me feel he is very sad. He's expressing a sad emotion over what has been happening, with like going into riots and violence. He's obviously very sad. The whole thing happened, of course, but especially that, there has been rioting. He would not want that to happen. But, I'm sure he understands, what people are doing, that he's not forgotten, but he would be very sad. The very first card is Six of Pentacles. So Six of Pentacles, as you can see, I'm taking a little bit of a slight different interpretation per the message that Spirit's giving, but that's the way tarot works. As you can see, he has the scales, and he's divvying out the pentacles to what appears like the beggars, where they're like, please help, please help. Okay, these make me feel the scales of justice in this case. Here he's divvying out justice, maybe here, there, given a little bit, this, that, but it's in a reverse position. So there is a demand for that justice to be given this time. Do you see the message? There is a demand for that. You can't just give me here and there anymore. We need it to be a system that works, for justice to be given. No more of this unfairness. And so that especially, I'm getting the message from it. And then we do have the Seven of Swords, so the betrayal, to feel betrayed, especially, by the police force and so forth, and people who have swept this under the rug. Another message too is, there is a little bit of betrayal for people who are going about looting and using poor George as an excuse to cause very bad damage or stealing things and so forth. A little bit, there is a betrayal with that too. So I'm hoping people will, stop that. And they've got to cut that out, because if there's going to be change, how people present themselves in this protest is so incredibly important. And I've seen so many people speaking out. Many African Americans are not participating in this. Matter of fact, I've seen, there's a lot of white people doing this. And, they're trying to say, stop. They're pleading with people to stop. So, we understand not everybody is doing this. I do also have the Five of Cups. As you can see, he is in mourning. He is mourning the Three Cups spilled. But there is an upside in the Five of Cups, that two cups stand beside. And I think of the Two of Cups. There was a card that I found on Facebook, which shows two hands holding each other, one black and one white. And they were holding hands, and then they showed two cups. And it was a representation of the Two of Cups from another deck. So as I see the two cups, Two of Cups can be soulmates, but they can also be friends. So I also see that as he is mourning. He is in mourning, and we all are in mourning. But the upside is we can be friends. People can come together and be friends. And I feel we're going to get there. When I go in the past position is a very past influential card, which is the Six of Cups. So we've got to kind of learn from the past, looking back. This is a time. Let's look back what has been happening. But now, here we are in the here and now. Now we're going to learn from that past. We're going to change things. We're going to change things because, it's not just about George. It's about everybody. And it's all about future people. And don't worry, I'm going to discuss what you can do, as my light workers. This is a card that represents my child, my daughter, which is the Page of Wands. So when I see this, it makes me feel that what are we going to tell our children? I really feel that's a very strong thing. And all of you need to kind of sit there who have children, that it's time to sit down with them. What am I going to tell my child? Because it's real important we educate our children. We, of course, need to educate them that injustice like this is wrong, and that there are people who are supportive of this, and we must be better than that, and get our voices out and so forth. So this is a real big time, and that's a big message I get from this weekly tarot read. How do we educate our children right now? They are witnessing all this. And I think of even the little ones, and they must be scared. Think of the little ones. What are they thinking? They must be very afraid of what is going on. And then I just drew, interesting, because I just drew the other wands, the Knight of Wands, especially not even our children, but just, even I think of young African men that are going through this right now. We want them to feel safe in this country, which is so important. We, educating them, we need the mentors to really come out, but really anybody can be a mentor, we really can. But of course, we need good mentors to be coming out and reaching out. And this is really the time to let them know they're not alone. Death has been a theme, especially with the passing, of George, has been incredibly traumatic. And I hate to, I don't even want to speak it into existence, but there's, with all of this going on, there's probably going to be some more passing. And it is unfortunate, but it's going to come down inevitably. It's going to come down and everything. And I do still have a message. Corona is going to slow down. Eight of Wands moving very swift. It is going to start slowing down in many places. Another message is, of course, things are going to be opening up, little by little. Of course, we got to get past this. I feel like before anything can really massively open, we've got to kind of pass this. All the spiritual ones, I do have the Hermit card. Now, especially that is, maybe step back and go within. Kind of really step back and go within during this time and really meditate on what your role is to play in everything that is going on right now. Just kind of really step back. And we also need everybody, to start kind of stepping back. There's been a lot of, chaos going on, and it's, we understand, I just drew the Five of Wands. And as I was just saying, chaos, as you can see, all these people like fighting and so forth. We especially want to avoid all this clash and fighting and everything. We don't want things to get violent. We really don't want things to get violent. But inevitably people will calm down. But will there be change? Will there be change? That is one of the main things. I just drew the Two of Swords. So the Two of Swords kind of makes me feel, as I kind of look at this, I kind of feel more of like, in Minneapolis, the prosecutor, the government, they're really thinking about what's their next move. I feel a little bit with the three cops and so forth, but really they are in the decision process. Should we go ahead and do something about that? I feel when I see the Two of Swords, I feel like they haven't quite made up their mind. But of course, you see she is blindfolded. And I do take note that justice is blind, is what they say. So hopefully they're not going to sit on their hands too long about doing something. I do feel they will, because I did my last read. I got the number 4 card, participation, with the all 4 participated. So I do feel inevitably they will, but I feel this delay, has got to stop. So as I just drew that, I did draw the 3 of Cups, a celebration. So I do feel coming very soon is those 3 will be taken in. So I do have that. So I just want you to know they're going to sit on it, but I just hope they don't take too long. And I feel like they kind of are. I feel like they're delaying that one a little bit, the ramifications. But with everything going on, I know they feel like, what, we better. So I'm going to draw some oracle cards for the awakened ones, especially during this time. I know it feels like a different world, doesn't it? It feels, and this is a major shift. When we talk about shifts, there is, and I drew it again, and I drew it last night, and we're going to talk about it again. There was a shift with the Mayan calendar. A lot of people didn't feel it, but there was. We shifted into something different. And I feel like, we're starting to feel the effects of that calendar ending. And now you're starting to feel a major shift of everything that has been kind of unjust in our country, and even in other places in the world, is beginning to collapse with everything that has been going on. Now, the first card, I drew this last night, and this as a message for the awakened, is the Enlightenment card. It's time to be fully awake and enlightened, and really kind of look at, okay, once you receive enlightenment, inevitably, collect yourself, but then you got to come out of the cave and share the enlightenment, because he is about enlightenment, the hermit. But we're going to have to, okay, now have our enlightening moment. Now we're going to come out of the cave. And what do we do with that? It's about raising consciousness and awakening humanity. This is part of it. It's a very destructive kind of thing. But if you look at, I did a astrology read in the group, and Pluto and Jupiter are in conjunct right now. And Pluto was especially about breaking down the limitations of the system of Saturn, which Saturn has its breaking down, with Mercury, that people are speaking out against, the system. And Jupiter and Pluto are in conjunct right now, so there's this death, and then there's going to be a rebirth, and Jupiter is breaking down the systems. Okay, here's the system of Saturn, but it's coming in and it's going to break it down very, in a pretty destructive way with the Pluto energy fused. So enlightenment, especially, there's going to be a mass awakening of people and a raising of consciousness. So the enlightened ones, need to get out there and raise their voice. Now, there is a gratitude card, and be grateful for all you have. So I want you to look at, people who have not had to go through what George did, or other people. You should be grateful that you have not had to go through what other people have. But we want to get it to the point we can all be grateful for what we have. That's what we really want to do. And it's important to put yourself in other people's shoes who have not been as privileged as you have, and I do that, it's like I was saying on my Facebook, when I get pulled over, I don't fear being assaulted. When I'm walking around, I don't fear somebody calling the police on me. We don't have that, so we should be grateful we don't go through that. But we want to also have everyone in this country be able to have the same kind of gratitude, to be able to do that, so they can walk freely without, being judged or people, attacking them. I feel like I want to draw one more. This is such an important topic, but I'm so glad the we are so connected. Just look at that again. I really feel that really was him. And when you look at, you're like, you know what? He would say that. He would say that to us right now. If he could speak to the entire world right now, and I know not everybody's going to see this, but we are so connected is so incredibly important to get that message out. And then I just drew the wheel of life, and I have been pulling this a lot for myself. I am guided by the cycles of life and live in complete harmony with them. So this is a cycle. It is, the cycles of life. We've got the yin and the yang and how it all works out. it is, we all are part of the cycle of life. So we all just have to work together. But yes, especially, this is time, I'm really calling, the awakened to, we've got to come out, we've got to come out and spread the message that we are one. That is what we have to do and really raise our voice. Even last night, I had a longtime member who was in my group, Spiritually Intuitive Readings. If you're not in my group, that's where to find me on Facebook. Look up Spiritually Intuitive Readings, just like my YouTube name. I had a longtime member who was in my group, and but she was on my friends list. I wouldn't say we were great friends, but I did add her. And, I was talking about Kaepernick taking a knee, and saying this is what he was doing. This is what he was trying to express. And then she was talking about, well, veterans felt insulted. And I was explaining he wasn't trying to insult veterans. Do you see now what he was trying to do? Everybody's saying that now. Do you see now? And a lot of people are starting to go, oh, now I see what he was kneeling for. He was aware. He had that awareness. And so anyway, she just wasn't getting it as I was trying to explain it. But then she started talking about players. Now, she did just say players, but I knew what she meant. And she was tired of players using, their clout, to speak out against things. But then she said, and which really blew my mind, is that, when they're not playing, in their games, that they act like thugs, and started talking about that. And I went, really? And so I called her out on it. And I called her out and I'm like, you called them thugs. Do you know how racist that is? And then she tried to back up because she knew what she did. And then she's like, oh no, I was talking about white players too. I wasn't. And I'm like, no, you weren't. No, you weren't. You're not going to play that game with me. And I kicked her out of the group. I kicked her off my friends list out of the group. But before I kicked her off my friends list, I was like, just, she had been in the group for about 3 years. And I'm like, just so you know, you bought yourself a ticket out of my group. People need to be held accountable, with it, and let know that these things aren't acceptable. It's unacceptable. And you can't call yourself a spiritualist and have these kind of views and say these kind of things that are offensive. You can't get away with it any longer. And, us awakened people have to let people know, even if they're a good friend, or even, like in my group, a longtime member, if you come out with this, it needs to be, expressed. This is not acceptable. This is on, you need to check yourself. You need to check your heart. You're not awake if you're saying things like that about other people. How dare you? So during this time, and that's another thing, awakened ones, use your voice during this time. Yes, we want to plead for peace. I want peace. We are so connected. This is what he wants expressed. He is sad. He is sad. That's why the Knight of Cups is reversed. He is sad about this. He does not want people doing, protest. Absolutely. I know he would support that, but looting and violence, no, he would not support that. So, let's try to work together, because if we work together, then we're a force. I feel everybody, if we all come together, we're a force to be reckoned with, and change will happen. Change will happen. And, the justice scales, we'll get that change. We'll get that justice. Like from now on, justice, if things happen like this, we will get justice. You're not going to sweep it under the rug anymore. We're just done with it. We're just done with it. It's not going to happen anymore. We're not going to forget you, George. We are so connected. I hear you. You hear him. I want you to hear him.